so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness, which creates and animates all things. Now, of course, understanding this powerful truth is one thing. Applying this incredibly empowering wisdom to everyday life? Well, that's another, which is exactly why we provide you with a fresh serving of soul food for thought 5 days a week to help constantly remind you of what matters most. You are it. And I'm your host, Brandon Beecham. I'm the reflection and extension of you who will be here each Wednesday interviewing a different consciousness changemaker. And on the other 4 weekdays, leading the way to ensure that your perspective is consistently expanded, your vibration is constantly elevated, and your heart is overflowing and full. All right, all you positive heads, welcome, welcome. Here we go again. So grateful to be back with you as always. Doing all the juggling over here on this end, getting days away from the first Mystic Manor retreat visitors. And if you guys are not sure what that's about, check out optimistic.tv. You can see all about the new late night style talk show that we're going to be shooting here out of the Mystic Manor in Venice, California. And you guys are all invited to come, probably getting close to half of the spots, a little under that, have been filled, and would love to see your bright, shiny faces to spend a week doing workshops. We're going to be doing, a lot of what's done in Joe Dispenza's workshops is on one of the days. Of course, you get to be on the live taping of Optimistic. There's going to be a celebratory party, etc., etc. You can find out all the details there. But if you guys are interested in getting involved with that, especially for September, I don't have September filled up yet, and I've been so busy I haven't been able to focus on it as much as I'd like in preparation for all these new happenings. Retreat guests showing up on the 15th, first show shooting on the 20th, plus moving, plus setting up the property. It's been a lot. So I have a few spots in September that I'd love to talk to any of you about who are interested in coming and spending a week here. Definitely going to be well worth it. And yeah, we'll be sharing footage soon. Of course, you can go to our Patreon and get behind the scenes footage. All that's coming really, really soon. So working our way into it. If you want to find out more and talk about coming out, reach out to me, Brandon at positivehead.com. And I know I'm so grateful that Miss has been helping me to hold it down these last few weeks as I transition into shooting the new show. And you guys will be hearing her somewhat regularly. You're also going to hear on Fridays the guests that are here at the Mystic Manor. I'm going to do a show with them. So you'll still have P-Head Posse episodes on the days when I don't, because it's 37 out of 52 weeks in the next year that there are 3 rooms that are all guests for you guys, right? And for the 15 weeks out of the year where there's not, someone here, you'll still have Alexa bringing the P-Head Posse shows. On the others, it'll be me with the 3 to 6 people that are here staying at the Mystic Manor. So that's going to be an exciting new development, all coming very, very soon. I can't believe it's here. It has been such an incredible ride, so much stretching and growth on my end. And I so appreciate all of you who have already stepped up on Patreon to help support. We did part ways with Gaia as an advertiser just as all this is going down. So all this new expense, and then parted ways with Gaia just kind of coincided with some changes they're making on their end with how they do marketing. So more than ever, if you guys can support on Patreon, like I said, you can see all the different offerings there. If you go to Patreon, patreon.com/optimistic, show. And of course, optimistic is spelled MYSTIC. You can see all the offerings there that we have as well. And just so much going on. And I hope you guys are doing well out there, wherever you are. I've decided I would pick up the book, The Third Millennium again. It's just nice. I haven't had a chance to do much reading in months. So it's been nice to be able to do that occasionally on the show and read something that's really inspiring and talk a little bit about it. In this case, The Third Millennium is a book by Ken Carey, who he claims it is channeled material that came through to him, 20 or so years ago. And I always say about channeled material, just like our most recent guest, I am open to the idea of someone channeling entities that are not, there physically, if you will, coming through the physical vessel. And to me, what's most important is what is the message? And what I found with Ken Carey, his message is incredible. I mean, this book, we're on chapter 4 right now. I've read chapter 1, 2, and 3 over the last couple months at times. And such good content, such wisdom. So for me, I tend to believe it is channeled as he claims based off of the power of the content. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter to me whether it is or isn't. I'm more concerned with what's being said. And some powerful words here by Ken Carey. And I'm going to just jump right in here on chapter 4. It's titled, Behind the Historical Disorder. There are some in your present human world who, having achieved a partial memory of their own pattern of incarnation, conclude that the descent into biological form would not have occurred had it not been for excessive fear and over-identification with the past. Yet, this is not the case. Incarnation into biological form was intended from the beginning. As incarnation into biological form occurred, each spirit could have remained fully conscious of its eternal nature and its hologrammatic relationship to the eternal source. Indeed, a few spirits did remain conscious of this. Your fragmentation and your over-identification with an exclusive sense of self distorted your process of incarnation. However, it did not cause it. You and others of your light circle had chosen to spearhead the Eternal One's exploration and development of the material universe. Your fall into fearful thought and non-fluid patterns of identity was not mere happenstance. An influence encouraged you in this direction, encouraged you to identify with an exclusive sense of separate self. With the exception of the luminous principalities, those angels who were the first to incarnate humanly, virtually all members of your race fell under the spell of this influence at some point during their journeys into biological form. We call this influence the materializing influence, or, when speaking in the plural, the forces of materialization. The materializing influence is the force of specified definition. It plays a central role in the creation and sustenance of the dimensional universe. Like frost drawing individualized ice crystals from the air, this influence draws crystallizations of basic molecular structure from the omnipresent energy currents of eternal love. The materializing influence is the principle of contraction that holds energy efficiently bound in matter. It guides the internal dynamics of matter and energy distribution in stars, as well as the thermal and geological processes of planets like the Earth. It is the quintessential materializing principle at its most basic level. This influence is personified, as are all qualities and influences in this potent universe. In the West, both the influence itself and its personifications have been referred to as Satan. Yet stereotypical images of Satan have prevented many people from understanding the real nature of the materializing principle. Satan is the personified principle that rules the background landscape of creation, as well as the many highly focused elemental beings who work together to regulate the systems and processes of materiality. These universally systemic beings are the creator's means of keeping material structure. That is, all energy patterns without the individualized selfhood that comes with personal will in assigned patterns of form of behavior. They are caretakers of creation's landscape, the rulers of subconscious processes and events. Together, they implement the laws that maintain the universal landscape. Mechanical laws, physical laws, gravitational, electrical, magnetic, thermal, atomic, subatomic, temporal, and spatial laws are all regulated by the materializing forces. In these, the subconscious realms, the materializing forces function as identified. They carry out their roles with precision and efficiency. You realized when you initiated this human project that the forces of materialization would play some role in developing the values of your incarnating spirits. But just how extensive a role was difficult to estimate. For in the conscious realms, the determination of value depends entirely on individual choice. The nature of human design required that the optimal ratio between spirit, energy, values, and material, matter, values, come from the incarnate ones themselves. Since they were creatures of free will, it could not be imposed or legislated. They alone, from within their biological forms, could determine the optimal spirit-matter balance. For the completed human species to serve as a conscious link between creator and creation, it was essential that its development be influenced by material values as well as by values of spirit. To actualize your vision of a species through whom you would one day explore the material universe and develop the universe's potential at the end of its developmental cycle, this race would have to be a product of both spirit and soil in equal balance. This could not happen if you were to remain fully conscious throughout the descent of your individual spirits into material bodies, for the necessary material complementation would then be insufficient, and the requisite spirit-matter balance would be absent. The dissipation or relaxation of your unified field of awareness during the cycle when human beings were multiplying upon the earth was the only way the completed race would emerge sufficiently grounded in the physical plane to serve effectively as the bridge between spirit and matter. And so you chose to sleep for a while, allowing the materializing influences to flow freely in and around the developing species. But while your sleep itself was intended, the excessive dominance of materiality during humankind's development was not. During the cycle of human development, the materializing influence was intended to engender human understanding of the basic laws pertaining to matter. It was intended to instill in humankind necessary material plane sensibilities. For the larger percentage of your conscious thought and the conscious thought of the humans who hologrammatically shared your awareness to remain available for creation and discovery, the organ of consciousness that humankind was growing into was designed to have its basic life support functions served by autonomic systems. Since the forces of materialization regulate all subconscious processes, these autonomic systems would naturally fall under their jurisdiction. It was here that your margin of error was exceeded. There is quite a difference in playing a role in subconscious human processes and in dominating conscious human decision-making. While the one was intended, the other was not. Before the initiation of the human project, the materializing forces had always received their instructions directly from the field of awareness that was their creator and source. However, anticipating the nature of the highly specified biological creation you one day intended to produce while incarnate in human form, just before you dissolved your unified field identity, you extended the jurisdiction of the forces of materialization to include any future directives that you might issue through incarnate human beings. While continuing in their current roles, you instructed the entities associated with the forces of materialization to honor all human requests for their regulatory services. This is where the misunderstanding occurred. Your traditions consider the entities associated with the materializing principle, Satan and his legions, evil. Yet, in their proper sphere of influence, these beings are necessary and essential elements of the material worlds. The decisive current of instructive energy they utilize to govern atomic and molecular formation is not evil when interacting with matter in its many structures. It is the very current of divine design. The materializing influence only becomes evil or destructive when it enters the sphere of human decision-making. There it translates into myopic, fear-centered logic that is not compatible with the more expansive awareness for which humankind is designed. How did the forces of materialization come to influence human consciousness? At one time or another, they must have received nearly every conceivable request from someone in human form, requests they were bound to honor. This brought their influence into regions of human consciousness where it was never intended to be. The result has been the virtual domination of historical human consciousness by excessively materialistic values. The resulting static has interfered with human reception of those frequencies of eternal awareness that were intended to guide them. While it is appropriate for materialistic values to dominate atomic and subatomic realms, they become extremely destructive when they dominate human determination. For they effectively move the whole seat of decision-making from the eternal awareness of spirit to the individual's accumulated knowledge of good and evil. The fearful logic and tendencies toward exaggeration that accrue from the misappropriated influence have caused the confusion in human understanding that has led to these past millennia of history. They have led many of your incarnating spirits into forms of self-understanding that correspond to neither your intentions nor reality. Under the dominance of the materializing influence, or the spell of matter, many of the early human incarnations came to discredit their own perspectives, doubting their source and validity. Since they were designed to be guided by these, their own views, discrediting them was like destroying one of their primary senses. They blinded themselves spiritually. They were perceiving a 7-dimensional physical planet in 3 dimensions. Understandably, without their primary means of terrestrial guidance, they began to encounter navigational difficulties. These difficulties only confirmed the doubts they had regarding the validity of their inherent spiritual perception. Quickly, they lost the self-confidence that, like a gyroscope, was designed to stabilize their eternal awareness while incarnate in biological form. Mistrusting their own perception, they began placing exaggerated emphasis on the experience and perception of others. They assigned spirit credibility externally, where it had no place. Ultimately, they believed the influences coming from outside themselves were more real than the influences coming from the presence of God within them. Believing lies, they exchanged their beautifully unique individuality for conformity to a fear-centered external code. Though it would not be until the end of the historical gestation process that your unified field would again be activated, awakening humankind to a common field of awareness, your species was intended to remain conscious of their eternal spirits throughout their multiplication and flourishing on the earth. Since you had given the spirits incarnating in human form jurisdiction over the forces of materialization, you had assumed that incarnating spirits would accurately assess the appropriate extent of the materializing influence and regulate it accordingly. It occurred to no one that they might so overemphasize the values associated with sensory impressions that they would forget their eternal origins and thus their purpose for taking on human form. It was natural that sensory input would have to be assigned a proper place in the value system of each newly incarnate one. Natural that it might even dominate for a time while adjustments were made, but the possibility was not anticipated that sensory interpretations might block out all other awareness in some entities, curtailing even their very memory of self, fostering a period of historical amnesia during which whole human societies would degenerate into barbarism and savagery. Nor was it necessary. Since their origin as individualized entities on the higher frequencies of eternal being, the spirits incarnating into human form have been gifted with complete freedom of will. The original fall from consciousness was no more necessary than the daily repetition of it is now. The fall has no power or momentum of its own. It must be regenerated daily. And it is within each individualized spirit cell, within your own individualized spirit and ego, on an intimate and immediate level, that you must recognize and correct this imbalance if you are to help us in the education and healing of your world. For while you are the whole, you are also each one sleeping in your collective soul. And wherever one yet sleeps in history's stormy dream, so too sleeps that part of you. If you are conscious in the one who reads these words, move on now past these next few pages. Resume the thread where it sparkles and gives words to what you know. But if you have slumbered recently or feel yet confused, these words speak to you. It is vital that you recognize the fall for what it is, a lack of trust that has become habitual, culturally encoded, and passed on from one generation to the next. To doubt yourself is to doubt the wisdom and viability of the human design. To fully trust in God, you must also trust yourself. No one is created without everything required to make healthy, wholesome decisions. The fall is regenerated each time you doubt your ability to meet creatively the challenges of life. Each time you turn your back on your inherent understanding and seek to replace it with the inferior images and beliefs peddled by the deities of the historical condition. History has many deities, many false gods, many patterns of orientation that are destructive to the human spirit and incompatible with your eternal nature. Chief among these have been fear, reason, social convention, and tradition. Each of these can be valuable and useful in your service. However, when you serve them, they become extremely destructive. The patterns of orientation that emerge from time to time as history's deities are goods exaggerated into evils by those whose awareness is dominated by the materializing influence. When dominant in the human consciousness, the materializing influence clouds human perception. The people under its spell can no longer see clearly. They take something, tradition for example, that is designed as an occasionally helpful behavioral guide within the context of their lives, and they turn it into the context itself. What was designed as a convenience for their conscious use becomes inflated into a structure that instead dominates all that they do. The materializing influence in its proper place is no more evil than the force you use to pick up an apple or plant a seed. But when conscious entities open their awareness to its slower subconscious frequencies, they experience the decisive currents that rule there as fear, and for them the experience is hell, because conscious beings were designed to function with an awareness diametrically opposed to the awareness that maintains subconscious formations. People have the prerogative of entering such subconscious frequencies. However, this locks them into awareness patterns that do not include a full field of perception, awareness patterns that, technically speaking, are subhuman. Unable to comprehend why a benevolent God would create a hell, many deny the existence of such a place. Yet every creature by nature of its design has an intended range of function. It is hell for a fish to be on dry land, hell for a bird to be confined in a cage. Similarly, hell is a daily experience wherever people are motivated by currents of fear that were intended to play only peripheral roles in their lives. When human beings accept fear into their lives as a primary motivational current, the resulting static clouds their reception of the higher frequencies, shutting out both eternal awareness and the energy currents that bring love and beauty into the world. They then find themselves so preoccupied with the projections of their imaginations that they are virtual and prisoners of their own designs. They feel cramped and confined, frustrated, confused. They see little but their own interpretations. This is historical reality. At its best, it offers hints and promises of splendid and awesome possibilities to come. At its worst, it is a continuation At its worst, it is a continuation of the only hell there ever was or ever will be. There is no gray area to your behavioral choices, no shadowy realm where you are partly in the new reality and partly without. There are specific frequencies on which you are designed to function, frequencies that are native to you, as other frequencies are native to other creatures. You either function on those frequencies or you do not. To use your free will to choose to function on frequencies for which you are not designed brings bondage, not freedom. Concepts and ideologies that are rooted in fear, even arbitrarily maintained belief systems that on the surface may not appear to be rooted in fear, act as shields to block out the emanations of eternity. They surround those who believe in them, generating what, for all intents and purposes, is an impervious dome, an effective invisible barrier through which the currents of universal thought cannot pass. They block the individual's awareness of the perceptual frequencies that alone can give them insight they need to be themselves. Ideologies are toxic. They poison perception and happiness. They block access to the intelligence that is designed to guide people's lives. To choose religious or ideological dogmatism in the name of freedom is as foolish as for a jailed man to exercise his right to remain in prison. To choose bondage may be the familiar choice, the traditional choice, but it is fatal all the same. It is the choice of subconsciousness over consciousness, the choice of mortality over eternal life, the very choice responsible for all the heartache and suffering of human history. The choice to function on the love-centered motivational frequencies where you are designed to function is the only choice that brings freedom. It does not limit you to a predetermined script, but offers a range of behavior that evokes your fullest potential. The historically programmed have but a few cultural selections before them, while the improvisational options that open before you as you ride the energy currents of eternal love are infinitely varied. You are free again to share with us the joy and challenge that comes with habitation of a sensuous universe. Though it can take many forms, in human consciousness, the materializing influence appears primarily as a pattern of convoluted logic that encourages fear-centered thought and can lead to self-destructive behavior. This influence is being driven out of human consciousness by the intensifying energy field generated as the collective awakening proceeds. Even as these words are shared, the self-serving, the promoters of human fear, those given over to greed and manipulation are experiencing a loss of personal vitality as a direct consequence of the withdrawal of this influence. They are being challenged to change their understanding of self and to stop relating to a fictitious realm of presumed others and to relax back into the rich interconnectivity of the loving matrix that gave them birth. They are being invited to know themselves as part of an integral planetary organism. To you who place your trust in the gentle wisdom that, behind all cultural conditioning, continues even now to provide the current of your awareness, to you who trust yourselves, histories, deities are transformed into agents of excellence. In the rightful places, they will serve you long and well, as will the materializing forces from which they draw their patterns of structure. They are cruel and terrible masters to the hesitant and the doubtful, but they deeply respect and are most eager to serve those who carry the consciousness of eternity. You have the authority and the knowledge to assign them to tasks of your choosing, an easy matter when you think of it, a detail, but an important detail. For by assigning fear and its offspring to creative roles in your service, you remove the materializing influence from the field of your conscious awareness. You emerge from the spell of matter, setting up a powerful resonance, a morphogenetic field that radiates outward from your heart, penetrating the surrounding atmosphere, making it easier for others also to reorient in love. No matter how well you may understand this on a spirit level, and of course in spirit you do understand, you must bring your ego into that understanding and practice this truth. Live with it on a daily basis, or your awakening is not complete. Your challenge is to awaken from the spell of matter while still retaining the human forms you have gathered around you during your descent into the physical world. Our legions are here to encourage and support you. We remember your instructions from the moment before you scattered into the seeds of humanity. Even as we watched your many individuations drifting downward in the spiral dances of gathering structure, your words rang in our ears. Wake me, you said, that I might arise in the forms that emerge at this journey's end, and through them bestow my gifts upon the world. Join me then in the matter fields, that together we might work to magnify the beauty and the wonder of these physical domains. Within you who read these words, that vision swirls, latent in a burning love for the productions of time, a love that we now call upon you to remember as your own. Within your slumbers, the creative vision that first illumined dimensional space. Within you, the star maker trembles on the threshold of awakening. Your ego will not dissolve in such an awakening. It will ascend into enlightened comprehension of its co-creative partnership with the eternal being in whom this universe congeals. Already, you're moving in the currents of eternal thought. As you continue to flow with this thought, it becomes your own. You remember. Wow, powerful. Chapter 4 of The Third Millennium by Ken Carey. Love it so much. Love seeing and considering this idea that the elementals, these things, the material world that's been so demonized is actually here to serve, and it's just been lost in time, right? As we lost our way, everything looks distorted, and now that distortion is clearing up for so many of us, right? How many of you listening have a clearer vision on trial, tribulation, perspective on traumas or things that happened to you that devastated you, that now you understand and you're healing? The perspective, the fog is lifting, we're all clearing, we're all awakening, we're all remembering, coming back together in this unified field, back to where we started from, right? What a journey. So grateful to be with you all on this journey. You truly are all such inspirations to me, and I so appreciate all of your love and support during this intense and powerful time for me personally, and I know is reflected in your lives as well. So much transformation is happening, and I just so thank you all for showing up and being willing to support and carry the torch. And like the book just said, as each of us awakens, we make it that much easier for others to find, their own inner compass back towards love and the perspective of our eternal nature, instead of living from this limited perspective of, a short life that is cut off from others and cut off from anything eternal. As you do it, you help others to do it. These reflections of us, these other parts of us. And I so thank you for showing up. With that being said, I have a song from Elisa Rose that seems appropriate today. She's going to actually be performing on Optimistic live style. So yeah, love this song. Seems appropriate. This is Float Up. Hope you enjoy as we ascend. We all float on. Until next time, journey well.
Also, before we cue up today's song, I wanted to let you all know that we have finally created the Game with the Universe on our website, where you can choose the first number that comes to your mind, and it'll pull up that episode number of the podcast. I've been saying this is a great way to co-create synchronicity and magic with your higher self for quite some time by doing this manually. But now, if you go to positivehead.com/YO Universe, there is a super fun and simple interface to play this game with your higher self. I firmly believe just by setting the intention to play in this way, it opens up the door for magic, and it's a synchronistic way to hone in on nuggets of wisdom out of the huge catalog of episodes that are specifically appropriate for you at this time in your journey to becoming the next greatest and grandest version of yourself. And it also makes for a super fun way to engage and invite friends, family, people on social media to check out the podcast as well. So be sure to check out positivehead.com/YOUNIVERSE, and be sure to tell all your friends so they can play a game with the universe, which also helps the show to reach new people, which I greatly appreciate. And as a quick reminder, be sure to also check out positivehead.com/transformation if you're curious to learn more about Purium superfoods and why I take them every day. On this journey of becoming the next greatest and grandest version of ourselves that we have all embarked upon, I can't stress the importance of managing your physical vibration enough. And quite honestly, Purium has put together the simplest plan I've found to do so, and I'm sincerely excited to share it with all of you. Otherwise, as you continue on your fabulous journey in this 3D reality, be sure to remember this. As long as you ain't dead, you're already positive ahead. Journey well, everyone, and thank you for being.
Till the sea stood at the rocky point, like you have me. We flew to the river far till the sea jumped from the rocky point, and we let ourselves go with the water. Taken by the ocean. flow with the water, float up, just float up, we float up, float with the water, float up. Sunrise, blue milk tides. By the time the lilies we've given into sleep, left our bodies by the bay. Then we flew to the river, far to the sea, stood at the rocky point or lie. You had me, flew to the river, far to the sea, jumped from the rocky point, and we let ourselves go with the water. Stare